Question number one, if you wear socks of a dead person, what happens? Is socks the same thing as shoes, which we know you shouldn't wear? And is there a way to override it if I already wore them, so I don't get anything bad from it? So those that are not aware, there's a sefer called Tzavos Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid, which has a lot of things which we do not know the reasons for, a lot of statements, and that it became acceptable by Klal Yisrael. One of the things that it says over there is someone should not wear shoes of a dead person. Now, Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid never explains his reasons for his halachas, for his statements, and that is why it's open for interpretation. And based on how you interpret it, that's what results in if you want to extend it to other cases. So it definitely says this thing that shoes that a person passed away wore you should not wear. What's the reasons that Mefarshim say? One reason Mefarshim say is that it says in I think it's Gemara that if somebody has a dream, and in his dream a person that passed away comes to him and wants to take any item from him, it's a good thing. But if he wants to take away his shoes, meaning the person that passed away comes to you and wants to take your shoes, then it's a bad sign. So therefore, we don't want you to wear the shoes of the dead person, because then you'll think about the dead person and shoes, and that's this way he'll come to you, and you might have that bad dream. So that's one svara. According to that, socks does not apply, and in Mele, you're allowed to wear the socks of a dead person, no problem.
You're just going to think about not wearing it.
You think about that often? No, so basically, that's not the same thing. Second explanation is brought down that leather has a tendency to carry diseases. So if most shoes are made out of leather, where the person's shoes, the disease that caused him to die can cause the person also, chas v'shalom, to get ill from the same disease. Based on that, it's only leather shoes, and it's not even socks, it's not even not leather shoes. According to that, what happens if the person wore the shoes a long time ago, and then he became sick only later, or he bought the shoes and he didn't wear them, and then according to that, you can also extend it. Yeah?
What about like other clothing?
Other clothing as well. So it says, this explanation is, since Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid only says it about leather, so you'll extend it to only leather. If he has a leather jacket, for let's say, then maybe you could extend it also to that. But the point is that it doesn't clearly say. So since it doesn't clearly say, it's hard to understand. Then there's another interpretation that he's not talking about leather of a person that died, rather leather of an animal that died. If an animal died and its leather was used for shoes, you shouldn't wear those shoes because the animal that died from a disease might cause the person to die. So these are ways of interpreting it and what it can lead in. But the pashtus, the socks is for sure not included. If somebody did wear the socks, there's no problem. Somebody wore the shoes also, the just stop wearing it now. These are interpretations that were explained to us. There's a famous Tzavos Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid where he says one is not meant to polish his shoes that the day that he travels. And the Baal Shem Tov said about that, he doesn't understand how a human being could understand such deep secrets of the Torah. So if this, whatever that's supposed to mean, there's probably other inyanim here as well, and therefore it should be pashus, even if it was done, it should be not done weiter. Just Maimer Musgar, there's a story that Rabbi Gurkov told me. Rabbi Gurkov's grandfather was one of the greatest unknown chassidim. His name was Rabbi Lezer Cherchasker, a very, very great chassid, not known about him a lot. So Rabbi Gurkov told me that his mother told him that she remembers her parents fighting only once in her entire life. Her parents fought only one time their entire life. What was the fight about? That there was an older chassid that passed away from typhus. And after he passed away, so his talus was not used. Usually you use the talus to bury the person. His talus for some reason wasn't used, and the talus was available. So Rabbi Lezer Cherchasker wanted to use that talus to daven with. And his wife said, no, typhus is a contagious disease. It's very dangerous. Don't use the talus. So she wanted to wash. He said, no, I don't want to wash it. We have to use it with the kedusha of the chassid. That was the only time they ever fought. So the point was that he wanted to use that talus even though it was from a person that passed away. Question, what's the worth of a dinar in today's currency? The way that the classical way of measuring dinarim is by the value of silver. Dinar and zuz is the same idea. And the way it works by silver, it's about 4.8 grams. I just looked it up. 4.8 grams of silver. So there's a lot of these websites where they calculate what the daily value of silver is. Today it's $3.84, I think. That will be the value of one dinar, one zuz. But it always goes by the how much silver it's involved. So if it's approximately 5 grams of silver, that's how to measure it. I'm in a desert island. How do I get a proper calendar for Shabbos and Yom Tov and Iber Yar and all that? So the joke is that if you bought a car recently, then you're fine because they're for sure going to find you to get an extended car warranty. So the mailer, once they call you for that, they'll ask them about the calendar. But How do you do it? You have to learn the calendar Balpa, and then when you get there, you'll know. Otherwise, if you don't know, there's a famous Gemara. The Gemara says someone that's traveling the Midbar and doesn't know, so he counts 6 days and he celebrates Shabbos. And if you don't know Viter, there's no. You do whatever you can do. You count. You celebrate based on what your memory is, and after when you come to civilization, then you will figure out if you are right or wrong. Next, very important practical question. It is like a very important practical.
Also, not forget when you start to make 2 shoals to that one. Now we want to know.
What would happen if a bacher stole an Holo member's car? It's not. It already happened a few times. It's Baruch Hashem. It's happened a number of times. So, of course, the most important rule, and all rules are, the rule is the 11th commandment. The 11th commandment is, do not get caught. That's the most important thing. So stealing is not an issue. Make sure nobody catches you. Some people are terrible at that commandment. Every time they do something, they get caught. And like within hours, they get caught every time. It's worse than the Avera itself. But what would happen if the bacher stole the car and he was caught, and he gets punished for being caught, not for stealing the car? Since you said so yukul that he got caught, he has to get a very big punishment. And the punishment probably depends on which Hanhala member and which car was stolen and how far did he go with it and how many brachim he took with him. So all these variables have to be taken into consideration. Hello, you and your brother. And based on that, that will be the psak din. Why is there 7 days of Pesach? 7 days of Pesach, first because the Torah says so. The Torah says you celebrate one day, then there's Chol HaMoed, then there's another day. That's the basic answer. The 7th day of Pesach is celebrated as for the miracle of Kriyas Yamsuf. So in a sense, you can say that it's 7 days of the Yidden leaving Mitzrayim. The first day, Tasvav Nisan, is when they left Mitzrayim, and the last day is when they left Kriyas Yamsuf. But they had Kriyas Yamsuf, and then the days in between are Chol HaMoed. So that's the simple way of explaining that. Bacher wrote a question, and I don't want to read out the question out loud, but he wrote a number at the bottom, number 143. So if you remember the question, so the answer is no, a resounding no, and according to Chassidus especially, that's definitely not. And besides that, I think you're wrong in your question. There's no such thing as for sure, but Koponim, the answer is no. I'm sorry.
You know what the question is, or what?
The Bacher that wrote the question, I'm answering for him. I'm not asking for anybody else.
Why being Q&A then?
The Q&A, remember, Q&A was founded for Bachim that don't have a mashpia. They want to ask private questions. They don't know who to ask. It was put over here. It evolved into jokes and halachic questions and other things as well. That's where it came from. So sometimes the question is something which it's a good question, and one-on-one I can talk more about it. I can get into more details. But in a public forum, not everything that is spoken one-on-one is appropriate to speak in a public forum. What? Question: If by mistake I skipped a paragraph in davening and I started the next one, what should I do? So it really depends which paragraphs we're talking about. There was a chassid, his name was Reb Gershon Ber Neveler. Who was a Gershon Ber Neveler? Anybody knows? Have heard of Gershon Neveler? We have a bacher in Yeshiva, or part of Yeshiva, Zalmi Yehuda. Zalmi Yehuda's great grandfather was Gershon Ber Neveler, very big chassid. So Gershon Ber Neveler, they say, I think they say either about him or about a different Gershon Ber. He was named after Reb Gershon Ber Pahader. So I don't know who the story was said about, one of the two Gershon Bers. That one time he was davening, and he got up till Vayivarech David, and when he got there, he said, it's not worth anything. Let's start over again. Start from the beginning, from Haidu, he started over again. So based on that story, if you skip a paragraph, you can go back. But that's questionable if you're allowed to do that, because Baruch Shamar, meaning the rest of, I heard from a Mashpia, that if you feel that your davening wasn't good, you can do the whole davening again, besides Baruch Shamar and Yishtabach, because most of it is not really Hashem's name, it's only Kapitlach, you can say over. The Pashtus, within Psukkah de Zimra, you can go back and repeat the paragraph that you skipped. If you skip... It says clearly about in Psukkah de Zimra going back in Psukkah de Zimra?
Yeah, the other says if someone would say the whole day, like Matam and I.
But does that mean within Psukkah de Zimra itself, you can go out of order? If I said Halaluka, I could go back to Asher if I skipped Asher. That was the question. So... You're saying about Bechlal, saying the whole day. Yeah. But this guy was saying the daven, the whole davening from the beginning, all the korbanos, everything besides the brachas. So regarding Psukkah de Zimra, Bepashas, I think it's fine. You can say as long as you continue in order. Regarding Shemina Esrei, so the Alter Rebbe brings in Shulchan Aruch Kuf Yotes in Simon Kuf Yotes If Dalid, he writes, if a person skips a bracha, Im dilik bracha achas shato bato shemachzib no yinterach lachs bracha bracha satachayim. Aloisha bracha shato ba isha dilik. Someone skips a bracha in Shemona Esrei, you go back to the bracha that you skipped. Umikol mekom misham ve'elech tzarich loimer ala seder. So if you skip in Shemona Esrei, you go back to the bracha that you skipped, then you continue weiter. So Shemona Esrei is clearly it's like that because it has to be ala seder. Again, but if a person skips, let's say as Yosher, and he goes to Yishtabach, I don't know if he can say afterwards as Yosher because it's supposed to be with Imsuk and Zimra. I would assume not. I assume after davening you can, but when you're holding at that point, I would assume you'll not be able to. What do you think about the Aguna problem? Isn't there something that the Rabbanim could do or should do? What would you do if you were in power? So someone told me that there were a few Bachim sitting around on a board and writing questions for the Q&A, so they wrote this question as well. He didn't tell me about this question, but I understood from that conversation. But Cholifins, it's a very heavy question. The thing is like this. The thing is that there's a Maisa with the Alter Rebbe and the Volper. I said the story recently in one of the Shiurim. The punchline is that the Volper was a friend of the Alter Rebbe, and they would learn together after they would hear the Torah from the Magid, and the room that they were in was very uncomfortable. So the Volper said, if it would be up to me how to run the world, I would make sure that Talmidim of the Magid can sit and learn comfortably, not the way we're sitting right now. The Alter Rebbe says, it's something that's unhealthy, the fact that he thinks that he can run the world different than Hashem runs the world. And the point is that you have to do whatever you can do. So b'meila, if I would be, what would I do? I have no idea, because if I would be that position, I'll be a different person. I have no idea. Where I am right now, I know that there's a lot of talk about it, about these prenuptial agreements, these different ideas that the Rabbanim came up with to try to solve the Aguna problem, and there's a big controversy if it's permitted or not, and different opinions and different ways of doing it. But our job here with my current shlichus right now is try to educate people to be people that go according to Shulchan Aruch, according to Yiddishkeit, according to Chassidus, and the Meila. None of you should ever chas v'sholem cause a woman to be an aguna, and if chas v'sholem you after you get married, terrible chas v'sholem, you have issues with your wife. And that point, if you go to Rabbanim, and if the Rabbanim agree and they say that you have to give a get, chas v'sholem v'chulu, I'll say it another 100 times, then you listen to what the Rabbanim say and give a get. But never. That's what I can do in my current position to make sure that no one here ever causes his wife to become an aguna. Question if the Bacher's handwriting is terrible and the spelling is even worse, but is having your jacket Jhakot, or leftover right a problem? What if it's in your note? I couldn't. It took me a long time to figure the first line. The second I couldn't figure out. So having your jacket, if it's a leftover right a problem, so it's not a halacha, but it's brought down in Kabbalah. And I saw that even the Misnagdim, they talk about it a lot also, that you have to have your jacket is meant to be right over left. You're supposed to have your jacket right over left. Now, the way it works today is if you have what's called a single-breasted jacket, the one that I'm wearing right now, so most single-breasted jackets are made in a way that the hole for the button is over here, and this button is meant to be on top over here, so it's meant to be left over right. However, like myself and many people do this also, we switch the button to the other side, so now it can be buttoned right over left. Now, really, this is not the ideal. The ideal is that it's supposed to be that you have to right over left, that you have the openings on the right, and the buttons are supposed to be on the left and sticking out. If you have a double-breasted jacket, which are the ones that think you have double-breasted? No. Anyone has a double-breasted jacket over here? It's very out of fashion. Some people have it still. So the double-breasted jackets. So the way it works is officially according to the culture is.
I have a double-breasted jacket. Sure it is.
Oh, so here, so the way it is. So according to the American culture, men do left over right and women right over left. That's what you'll see over here. There's two holes over here to make it left over right. There's only one hole over here, which is for the button inside. So that's the way it's mitzad the American culture. L'poil, one button's enough as well, so you can still do right over left. So that's the ideal way. And the reason, according to Kabbalah, is that chesed is supposed to be over gvura, and that I mentioned, but a little bit of gvura you have to have, and that's why it goes through the button. But l'poil, most people today. Most people today have single-breasted jackets. That's definitely the majority of people. So either some people, they just flip over their button like this and they break it. You're supposed to do it like make it right over left, or make it like just move the button to the other side. So it's basically Kabbalah, which is accepted by everybody, not just the Chassidim. Yeah.
Someone says that word is left, so I heard. Someone says Allah.
The Rebbe said it also all the time, but when the Rebbeim say something, depends how they're saying it based on Kabbalah or based on Halacha. The Rebbe is also Halacha for us, but there's different ways of categorizing Halacha. If I'm not, I heard that there's a few times, where the Chazan that was at Bachram 770 went up to the Amud, and for Mincha Ma'ariv, his jacket was buttoned left over right, and the Rebbe pointed out to him to switch it to right over left. So.
What about pants?
So I saw in this one they're bringing that pants are usually left over right, that it says to give the klippa something. So you give them the left over right. Also shirts. Most shirts are left over right also. Most of your... I just said.
Wait, why do you wear your pants
The
inside
po-
out so it's right over left?
The pile we are makbid only by jackets, not by other articles of clothing, even though the chayra, the sweater applies everywhere. The pile, that's only by jackets, we're careful. Yeah.
What's the reason for this?
Because right is chesed and left is gvura. So chesed has to be over gvura.
Before we mock it, the hold out in your jacket and buttons.
So by Shachris, it's not. I mean, depends if you want to do the tefillin, your jacket underneath or not, which you don't really have to. But talking about mincha, might have all the time. I mean, bepashtus, it's mainly by shmona esrei. It has to be closed. It's adikli kras adikacha. But even that's only mincha might. I mean, when it comes to Shachris, some bachrim have the jacket button, and most bachrim don't have it over their shoulder. The svaras lakan or lakan, what's better? Next question, if you put your hand in front of a flashlight, what happens to the light after your hand? So the flashlight is shining and there's light over here, and what happens to that light? So it's not a funny question, it's actually a very heavy question. It's a question which is, it's one of the few questions which we don't have the Rebbe's biur, but is a heavy contradiction between Chassidus and science. According to Chassidus, when I put my hand in front of the flashlight, there's no light continuing, because the light cannot continue. According to Chassidus, light only exists as a result of the sun, or the source of light. The moment the source of the light stops, nothing continues. Unlike a water gun, if I'm shooting a water gun at you and someone comes and blocks it, so the new water will be blocked, but the water that's past my hand will continue traveling to you. According to Chassidus, by light, it doesn't work that way. Light can only continue as if it's connected to the source. The moment the source is blocked, light does not continue. That's what says Chassidus over and over again, many places. However, according to science, according to physics, it doesn't work that way. According to physics, light is like a water gun. Of course, it's a lot quicker. That's why you can't see it. But that's why they explain that there are some stars that are officially dead already, but their light is still coming to us, because the light is coming millions of light years away. It's still shining towards us. So it's a very heavy question. And my father told me to ask Rabbi Yossi Paltiel. So I asked Rabbi Yossi Paltiel, and he told me to write it up on the Stump the Rabbi. And the Rabbi said, I'll get a notification that I said, maybe 2 years ago, I don't know, maybe less, maybe a year ago. I wrote it in. He never did it on Stump the Rabbi, but he sent me a voice note that there's 3 levels in his suggested answer. He said that he knows the question, and there's 3 levels in the sun. There's Shemesh, Chamo, and Cheres. And one level is like this, and one level is like that. And Chassidus is talking about the level that it appears as a connection, which nice biur without any. I mean, the question is a strong question. As far as science knows now, that's how light works. That indeed the light continues traveling. So obviously it's very quick. So it's not shy to notice that. But that's what he said.
I think it's all like relative. Really. If you have a very strong surface, the light will. Even science will probably agree that nothing is going past it. If it's just your hand,
Nothing's going past it.
what's actually going to take a paper or like a hand, right? There will still be like radiation.
No. It's like a water gun. The water continues traveling afterwards. The light continues traveling. That's what science says, and it's. I said it once in class. I said, "Well, Chassidus is something." And Baruch told me science says different. This. I don't know what you're talking about. Then I saw he's talking right. Science says that's proof artificially also, but science is science, only suggesting. So I doesn't know for a fact anything. Huh? How do they measure the speed of light? So they have ways. I mean, there's a number. I think it's 327,000 miles an hour or something a second. I mean, there's numbers for these things. There's cheshbonos that they have. You got a question?
No, you have a mirror, right? And the light reflects from the mirror, right?
No.
So I'm saying, shouldn't that be the same, even if it's not a mirror? Like it bounces back. See, even that's this, since some of the speaks of like it's, since some are like through mirrors. It's like goes through one place and it reflects another place.
No.
So I'm saying, why is it a steer?
Chassidus says that the moment the clouds come and the sun, no light continues because light cannot exist unless it's connected to its source. Science says that the light can continue existing even though it's disconnected from its source. It continues flowing just like a water gun. You know what a water gun works? How it works? Anybody want to show how?
It splatters back, you know?
Water gun doesn't splatter back. The water continues traveling. It was about he knows. Whatever. So, Kaponim, so that's the answer to the question when you put your hand by the flashlight. Bacher wrote a question. I can't read the words in big letters. There's Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, but then it's a big mishmash. It could be the same Bacher wrote about the jacket. I can't tell the handwriting, but I really can't see what he wrote. So, B'cholifin, you should write. Anyone has new questions, you write them. If I didn't write I didn't address your question yet. It could be it's about handwriting. Ask someone else to write it. It should be more clear. Yeah.
One of the questions you were talking about, like days, why it isn't for 7 days. I have a similar question that in the times like the base week and shit, like right before that, what would they do like during the money? What was their like thing that they did?
They go on trips.
They go on trips. That's your question.
No, they could.
What did they do on the weekdays that were not Chol Hamoed?
What would they do on Chol Hamoed? Like,
What would they do on the weekdays?
What would their Chol Hamoed be? What would they do?
What was the trips you asking?
No, they didn't go that.
Chol Hamoed is a time to serve Hashem, to sit on the Torah and do. They probably did mitzvahs. The Gemara said they did mitzvahs. They would go around to old age homes and to hospitals and then to Sheikh Ul Vanesra. So that's what they would do.